Is Halo as a franchise absolute toast? About a month ago, I made a video playing Halo Infinite and exploring the question of whether Halo is a dead game. That video got a huge amount of comments, so I wanted to explore a little bit about the sort of things I saw. I mean, not exact comments, but the general themes, the feedback. I've been playing a lot of Halo Infinite the last few weeks, and the game is genuinely not bad at all. There's a lot of bad press and perceptions about this game, and some of the comments just before we get into it were saying that content creators and streamers are the problem. People are so easily manipulated by content creators, and that's why people don't like the game. That's why there's this bad perception. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think that, yes, people are heavily influenced by content creators, that's true. But ultimately, if the game was fantastic, offering a huge amount of brilliant things, then I think it'd be getting good coverage, and therefore the game wouldn't have had this public perception. So it's kind of it's a loop, right? It's a circle. It's not that we content creators make videos and therefore people hate the game or don't like the game. Hundreds of thousands of people picked up the game when it launched and they didn't play it after that. So that's not content creators making videos. That's them playing the game and not enjoying the experience. If they played the game and enjoyed the experience, a lot more of them would have stuck around to play, at least on PC. And that's the other point as well, just to say before we get into it. There was a lot of comments about player count. There's no way we can really know about Microsoft player count, Xbox player count. I mean, if I'm wrong on that and you know, let me know in the comments how you come to that, realization that there's loads of people playing on Xbox. Well, I'd love to know how you can know that and where you get your information from. Citation needed sort of thing. Just drop a source in the comments if you really know where that comes from. But my perception of player count is that the player count is seemingly not very high, especially when you look at things like Steam charts. I know that's not the whole, obviously, all the people playing the game, but there are some playlists where it takes ages to find games. And yeah, so to my mind, at least, it doesn't seem like it's a hugely thriving player base, if that makes sense. Certainly not the kind of million people we saw back in Halo 3. 1 million concurrent players at one point, which is so crazy. I mean, that is a bit of a rarity. That's never going to happen again. I mean, that's probably hardly ever happening on any game these days. So, I mean, it's not unusual that that's not going to happen in Halo. But anyway, I mean, it's firstly just to say, one thing that general perception people have, what do people think about the game? I mean, people think it will never be what it once was. That's my general perception of a lot of the kind of sentiment, at least, is that, Halo's kind of, it might have been destroyed by certain things. That's one, quite a lot of sadness, actually, in the comments on that front. People just saying that, yeah, it's completely ruined. It's just something that they've come to accept, and it makes them sad. But on the flip side, there was a lot of people, though, who used to play a lot of Halo back in the day, like me. I mean, if you're of a certain age, you probably played Halo 1, 2, 3 a lot growing up. And, they've gone back recently, and they actually find that they quite enjoy Halo Infinite. So it's a curious thing where they maybe didn't play it for a while. A bit like me with some of the games I played recently, like Battlefield 5, some of these games where they weren't very popular on launch. But because I never experienced that, similarly, like with certain games like, what's another example? I mean, a classic, the one that people always say is so bad is Star Wars Battlefront 2. And I never played it, right? And so now I played it recently and I love it. So I don't have that kind of, that weird thing. So a lot of people are saying that. They said they held this negative perception about the game, but having played it, they actually really enjoy it, which is kind of interesting. One thing I'd say, that seemingly, again, I'm kind of pulling out themes from these comments, is that there was an amazing amount of fans and players of Halo just kind of sharing their thoughts, and there's so many. It makes me realize that there are a lot of people who care about Halo, who have some sort of either nostalgic feeling about it. They like the way the game is now. They used to play it a lot growing up. There's a huge amount of people, like a sleeping giant of a player base, just waiting to be untapped. And I think that if there was some sort of attempt to bring them back with something huge, like a Battle Royale, I think a Battle Royale would be so good for Halo. It would just be so insane. The moment might pass because Battle Royale is kind of having a bit of a moment that it doesn't seem to be as popular as it once was. But if it had released a competitive BR over the last 5 to 6 years with all of the lore and all of the stuff in Halo that it could have lent on, it could have been absolutely insane. So, I mean, that's really sad. But yeah, I mean, if that had happened, maybe all these people who are in the comments who are clearly so interested in Halo would have played it a lot more, would have gone back to it a lot more, and would have been locked back in. And then that can always, leak back through into the multiplayer element of the game as well. I'm not saying that Halo has to become a BR. It's like with Call of Duty, it wasn't doing very well. They released Warzone, the game blows up in popularity, and the multiplayer has done well as well because of that. There's a lot of interest in the CDL and the Pro League, and that seems to be increasing over time. So you have that kind of symbiotic relationship between the two modes. But yeah, it's just kind of a side thought. But just that's, I think, something that I took away from this is there's so many people who would, love a reason to play Halo, which is a really weird thing to say because the game's genuinely not bad, but I think for some reason people don't just, they for whatever reason, they're not retained by the game. They say it's not bad, but they don't feel the need to keep playing it loads and loads and loads and loads. There were some problems that people identified in the comments, like a lot of people have suffered from things like technical issues, lack of new content. I mean, some people said that if there was like a huge meaningful update, they'd probably return and try it out each time. So there are people who kind of come back to the game, but because there's not that much new content or any meaningful content, they don't come back. So that's one thing. And like I say again, if there was a huge, that's where if you're going to do a live service game, you got to do big things to keep people interested and keep them coming back. So that's kind of interesting. There was the classic case of, I'm sorry to say this, lads, but all you people down there in Australia and New Zealand, absolutely struggling with your servers. But I think that's probably true of every game. Every game I play, I always get probably at least 1 or 2 comments from people saying like, we need servers in Australia, help us. And I'm sorry to the lads down under. That's sad. You're sad to see it, but I don't know if that seems to be across the gaming world, unfortunately. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you, lads. Okay, right down there in the land of the sun. Anyway, so yeah, I think people as well. Other perceptions that they have. Someone said they think that Halo Infinite catered too hard to a casual audience. Which is interesting. I don't know what that means. It wasn't a full answer, so I'm not sure exactly what that means. I mean, one thing I would say about the game that I've felt the last couple of weeks is there are certain weapons, like the Needler. The Needler is insane. You die. It's like 0.3 seconds and you're just gone. It used to be pretty good, but it's just absolutely wild how powerful that thing is. So some of the weapons are just so powerful. And I feel like Halo always used to be a game where it had long TTK, long drawn out fights, 4 shots, all the rest of it was like the quickest way to get someone with a BR. It feels like, just generally, like you go down way quicker these days than you did back in the day. And it's just such a faster paced game in general, I feel like. I don't know if that's catering to a casual audience. As I said, I don't know what that is, but if you left that, if you have a feeling about that, let me know in the comments. My general perception is that it doesn't feel that good for a casual audience, because I mean, some people are absolutely cracked out of their mind. Someone said, interestingly, nobody knows this game exists. If they did, they'd play it. Now that is very curious. I mean, it does raise the question. I mean, how often do you see Halo, advertising around? I'll be real, not much. Really not much. I mean, I don't know if that means that they're kind of just riding the IP. But yeah, you don't see huge things. I mean, there are things, right? You see a lot of integrations. Microsoft used the IP a huge amount. You see it with collaborations with other games as well. You see Master Chief popping up in everything. So I mean, it's not necessarily that there's no advertising. But yeah, I mean, just generally, I think it's not as strong in the public consciousness as it would have been once upon a time. And I think that's just something that's a slow burn over time. I mean, it must be so hard. I can't imagine how hard it is as a marketing team or whatever in a video game franchise in this increasingly competitive, dynamic, changing landscape to keep yourself relevant and to keep yourself interesting in such a competitive space. It must be so difficult. And then you add on all the fact that, Halo's always going to struggle because it's not on PlayStation, so that's on Nintendo. It's got exclusivity, right? So that's a huge problem that people didn't talk about in the comments, but something I always used to think, as someone who played Halo a lot back in the day, I used to wish it was on PlayStation. Obviously, it didn't to sell consoles, but I genuinely think that might have, I think for Halo as a game, it would have been better to be available on every platform. It would have brought new audiences to the game, and I wonder if that's something we'll see one day. More of a kind of exploration of new consoles and new platforms for the game, but I think that certainly is true. And then, like I say, and you end up with a situation where declining player base, not drawing in new audiences, and it just kind of drifts out of the kind of public psyche a little bit. It's just the way it is. I mean, a huge amount of people are still playing the old Halos. And I think if you say Halo to someone, especially someone who's maybe in their 30s or 20s, you say the word Halo. I reckon if you as a Halo player, if I say the word to you, okay, what game comes to mind when I say Halo? Let me know in the comments, but also just think in your head. If I say Halo, I'm going to guess that the game you picture in your mind is not Halo Infinite. I reckon it's probably one of the older Halos. And I don't think it's Halo 4. It might be Halo 5. Halo 5 gets a lot of flack. To me, Halo 5 was genuinely not that bad. But certainly for me, it's Halo 2, Halo 3. Those are the ones that really live long in the memory. And that's kind of in terms of like knowing Halo exists, when I think about Halo, I think of those series of games. So I think it's a valid point that people don't know it exists. I mean, if you're born, let's say you're like, this might terrify people, but if you're 16, which is like, to my mind, that's when I played the most Halo. You were born in 2008. You were born after Halo 3. What is the likelihood that those people know what Halo is? I mean, they certainly probably have no idea or perception of what Halo used to be. Definitely not. So, you know, I reckon that's an increasingly big problem for the franchise. Is that if the games are less and less successful, there's this general perception about the game and all the rest of it, and there's been such a divergence from what made, in my mind, Halo. It's you end up with a situation where less and less people are going to be aware of the game and how brilliant it was and how brilliant it could be and the story and all the rest of it. It's really quite a weird thing to think about. It wasn't all bad. You know, there were some things that people said they really enjoyed about the game. People said they liked the fact that the kind of enemies are fierce. I love the word fierce in this comment, by the way. They said that the enemies are fierce. So not like other games like Call of Duty or other games where it's like extremely fast TTK, and therefore it plays towards things like camping. It plays into that kind of like slower, sneakier playstyle because that high stakes sneakiness doesn't really exist in Halo because of the longer TTK. You can get away. You can challenge people over a longer fight. People like that about the game. True, I've always liked that about the game. That's something that I love about Halo. Full stop. Is the fact that the long TTK. I miss the days of no sprint. I know this is a classic question again in Halo. Should there be sprint in the game? I mean, to me, there shouldn't be. It would be like adding sprint into CSGO. Doesn't make sense to me. I mean, you need to have some of those core tenets of the game that made it feel like that. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's also something to be said for sprint modernizes the game for modern audiences. But anyway. So yeah, I mean, the public perception thing, people genuinely seem to genuinely think the game is not bad. Like, most people who play the game don't hate the game. They're mad about other things. They may be mad about how the game is handled. They're mad about maybe there's like a lack of features on launch. For example, lack of Forge, therefore lack of community. You know, I think there's a kind of a general perception that the game's not bad, but it could have been so much better. And maybe the damage has been done, not just to Infinite, but maybe to the franchise. I mean, it brings us onto the question about what would the game need. I mean, how do you resurrect a franchise like Halo? I mean, firstly, there's certainly something to be said for, you know, this is really difficult because I think a lot of it comes down to new game modes like a BR, like a Battle Royale, something that's going to, you know, draw people in. There's this extraction shooter idea. I don't know whether extraction shooter lends itself to Halo, to be honest with you. I really don't think it does. I think, to my mind, Halo's like a competitive FPS game. And extraction shooters, it's just you think about vibe, right? A vibe of a Halo game and a vibe of like an extraction game could not be further apart. Halo encourages you to get involved. You want action, insane moments, all the rest of it, all the fast-paced stuff in that game. You compare that to the energy of an extraction shooter, to my mind, it would not work. It would really be pretty bad. I mean, at least in my mind. I think there's definitely something we've seen recently in games like, for example, the finals. There is still space to innovate. It's like new game modes, new things. It doesn't have to just be a BR. I mean, I don't know what it would be. A BR would be a great place to start. I mean, I still kind of sit here scratching my head, unable to understand why there isn't one. But I do wonder if the ship sailed on that a little bit. But yeah, some sort of new game mode that kind of draws in players from a range of player bases. That attracts other people from other franchises. Maybe one that draws back new, you know, old players as well to the game, to turn them back into Halo players. But something that would kind of be bigger than just Halo itself. But I mean, how do you achieve that? I'm just me. I'm just saying this in a video. The reality of putting that into action just seems impossible. I mean, I think there's certainly elements that the game is built towards. Things like BR, things like firefight, but like the firefight that exists currently is not that compelling. I think it'd be really cool to see like a really awesome, over-the-top firefight version, for example, wave-based, kind of zombie-based style thing. I still have a firm belief that zombies and stuff like that, and that kind of game, the wave-based survival games, like Horde, zombies, firefight, I think these could make a huge comeback. But if that could be done in some sort of interesting way, maybe some sort of PvP element in there as well with that, I mean, I don't know, but there's real scope there to make it interesting. And that's, I think, the kind of game type that Halo works really well with. So I mean, to my mind, that's what I think the game needs. I mean, what do you think? Ultimately, let me know in the comments what you think the game needs. I'm very curious to move this discussion, but it needs something special to my mind. It can't just be a new map. It can't just be new weapons. It can't just be nostalgia. I really don't think nostalgia is the kind of thing here that can really do anything to save games. I think nostalgia, okay, so you can maybe use it a little bit to drum up interest, but ultimately what matters is the game itself, the quality of the game, and the innovativeness of the game, the newness, something new that offers something different, that's exceptional and fun, and inclusive of all possible players, i.e. across platform. I mean, that could be such a huge thing for the franchise. I mean, I love Halo. I absolutely love it. I'll still play this game. If you haven't played it, you should give it a go. It's free. You might as well. It's an awesome game to play. Lots of cool Forge creations on there as well, which are really fun to play. But I just wanted to come in here, explore these ideas, talk a little bit about it, because it's something I'm interested in. I was thinking about it all day today. I kind of want to just talk about Halo and kind of see what people say in the comments again. Because the Halo community is one that's, like I say, it's a sleeping giant. It's right there, ready to explode. It just needs its moment in the sun, and it needs something to cheer about. I mean, the Halo community is so desperate to cheer for something new. Or maybe I am just wrapped up, like the person said originally. Maybe I'm just wrapped up in all the content creation negativity. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I've just been watching too much YouTube. Maybe I'm reading too much Reddit. I don't know. Let me know in the comments, guys. What would you like to see in Halo? Is Halo dead as well? If you want to re-answer that question, please do. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. Do drop a like. Subscribe if you're new. I'd love to get 100,000 subscribers, because I reckon one day YouTube will probably discontinue the plaque. I'd love to get the plaque before that happens. So if you want to subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.